Welcome everybody, and thank you for tuning in to my Q&A. After I've done several videos in Italian, a lot of you guys wrote me asking me to do it in English because Italian is not your language. So after I got a lot of mails, a lot of messages, I decided to do it also in English for everybody out there who wants to take advantage of my opinion, my question and answer. So lately it's been competition time, and a lot of athletes, a lot of people wrote me asking me about what we have to do, or asking me my opinion about last week before the contest practices. So what happens in the last week before a contest, what happens with training, what happens with nutrition, how to deal with water, salts, the normal questions. A lot of people manage to get in really good shape 1 week before the show, and then the last week mentally and physically becomes very stressed and stressful. So a lot of people lose actually the shape that they have. Instead of getting better, they get worse. So what's my take on that? Obviously, it's something very subjective. There isn't something I can give for everybody that works for everybody the same way. The only thing I can do is try to give you some pointers that make you think, and that may help you to use this on your contest prep in the last week. So let's think together a little bit on what happens the last week before a show. Training. What happens with training? My take is that the biggest mistake people do is that the last week they try to go in a different direction than what they brought them to the week before a show. So in training, very important, don't go crazy. Don't start doing things that you have not done in the weeks before the show. So don't go on super intense training techniques. Don't try to go too many reps. Don't try to do too much. Especially don't try to go do an exercise that you have not done before. If you get sore again, or if you have muscle trauma, that may go into the show. So if you train the muscle differently with different exercises and your body does not recuperate from it, actually in the show we're going to see that. So try to get to the show with a relaxed muscle and in good shape. So don't go crazy in the last week of training. Keep a rep range around 10 repetitions. Maybe with legs you can go up to 15. Keep normal recuperation time, and especially very important, try to keep the weights relatively high. Now don't go crazy with the weights, because you're low in carbs, you're low in body fat, low in water most of the time, water weight. So do weights that you can manage good, but have them pretty heavy. So 60-70% of your max. Good form. Don't do forced reps the last week. We're not trying to build muscle. We're trying to maybe carb deplete, which a lot of people do. So don't go crazy on your training. Keep that what brought you to the last week until you stop training. So don't go overly crazy and overly motivated in your training right before a show. That does not work. Now, what happens with carbs, protein, water? A lot of people carb deplete before a show. That might work very well for some individual, for some athletes. Other athletes which have a very good shape 1 week out, I'm not so a fan of doing carb depletion and loading, because most of the time you can make things worse than what they are. So if your shape is right there what you want to have it, it's just a matter of kind of balancing your water retention. Then don't go crazy. Just maybe lower a little bit your carbs, come up again a little bit, and then at the end try to manipulate your water and salt intake a little bit. Just cruise into the show. That's the best thing you can ever have, is get 1 week out of the show in perfect shape. The last week, don't go crazy. Keep doing what brought you there, and the more things you try to manipulate the last week, well, the more chances you're going to have that something's going to go wrong. Protein intake, the same thing. If you carb deplete, if you go down in carbs, sometimes you're going to have to adjust a little bit with your protein intake. I believe in whole foods, so don't go crazy on supplements the last week. I really don't believe in whey proteins, caseins, or too many supplements the last week, go with whole foods, go with your meat, chicken, fish, also with carbs, go with really good quality carb sources, sweet potatoes, brown rice, things your body can manage, digest very well. Keep your fiber intake pretty high, just watch that your stomach doesn't get bloated too much. One important thing is when you reduce carbs, increase your water and sodium intake, especially if you're carb deplete. Very important, higher your water intake and your sodium intake. That will keep you fuller. Water and salt are going to be the reason why you stay full during carb depletion. So if you deplete, go up with sodium and water so that you don't have this great flattening out before a show, which you're going to have to refill afterwards with carbs. So keep your fullness with water and salt, and then bring back carbs in order to keep the fullness, but you don't want to go overly down or overly up again. Okay? One very important thing is the last week is your aldosterone levels. Aldosterone is a hormone which controls your sodium absorption in your kidneys. So if your aldosterone levels are low, you don't going to have a lot of problems in carving up or bringing back calories before a show to fill out, because it's not probable that you're going to have water retention, because your aldosterone levels will not have your kidneys bind back a lot of minerals and sodium especially. So very important, keep sodium and water up if you can, if your shape allows it to. This will put down your aldosterone levels. That will allow you to come into show and fill out with no problems, and even keep your liquids high, because if your aldosterone levels are under control, you don't need to go crazy and go on zero water before the show, which usually also flattens out. So those are all things that 1 week out you have in your system. You have water, you have sodium, you have carbs. Then you take carbs out, you take water out, you take sodium out, and obviously your body is not going to look the same way. So if you want to look full, if you want to look hard on shape, on stage, you're going to have either carbs, sodium, and water. One of those has to be in your system. Otherwise, you're going to look good again the next day before a show. So think about how you can manipulate your aldosterone levels, your shape, in order to have all those things the day the show or before the show. Again, don't go crazy the last week. Don't try to reinvent things, because the chances that it's going to go wrong are higher than if we're going right. Also, a subject is diuretics. When you put thiazide, when you put loop diuretics in the last days before a show, you know that's going to empty your minerals and your water in the body, and it's going to be very hard to control your fullness. So if you don't have to do things like that, better, but you have to really manipulate water and salt before, in order to be able to get into the show and fill back out on stage. Okay, that's a little bit my take on the last week before a show. Hope here and there you've got some views that may make you think, and hope you can use it maybe in your prep. Peace out to everybody, and to our bodybuilding fans, and hope you're going to tune in for another question and answers. Thank you very much to everybody.